Hi, Stefan, Fiskeshopen Mörrum here. I'm gonna tie a fly for you. It's a fly from our new book, and yeah, it's a salmon fly, as you might have guessed. It's a fly called Lönne Socken, a very famous fly in Mörrum. Was invented in the beginning of the 2000s by Lars Terkildsen. Yeah, and there's a longer story to it, of course, but you can find that in the book. I'm gonna start out by presenting the hook. It's a low water double hook, size 6, and we need just a few materials for this fly, really. Some hackles, some flesh, some body wrap, and yeah, thread and some yarn. So why not just dig into it? Just gonna start like winding a bit of thread, but everybody knows that. All the way to the end, cut it off. Then we're gonna use some yarn, red yarn. You can use whatever. The one I use is the one called Chinese red, and I always tie it in this way, so I have some thread some yarn going the opposite way, and I'm gonna show you why in a little while. I'm using a quite thick thread because I like to tie my materials in quite hard, so they should last longer. This yarn, I'm gonna turn it backwards and lock it in, and then we're just gonna start winding the yarn here around and create a nice big butt. And I really want the butt here to be quite visible. Should be very easy to see it. Many salmon anglers believe that this red butt or red tag is the most important moment on a salmon fly. And then I'm gonna pull this yarn backwards again, and I'm gonna do that to keep this locked, so the butt won't open up as easy, and it's gonna stay where it is. Just pull it quite hard and just make a few turns around with your thread like that, and then you cut the rest off. As I said, the fly is a quite simple fly, or maybe I didn't say that, but it is a quite simple fly, but very effective. Few materials. It comes originally from the classic Ullsock pattern that most of you you should know of at least. But this fly was invented early 2000s, as I said earlier, by Lars Terkildsen, and the story to it is actually not that long, so maybe I should just tell a little bit about it. He caught a big salmon on the fly, and he took the fly off his leader and gave it to a guy called Hans-Jürgen Lönne, and then he told him, like, now you can go and catch a salmon on a Lönne Sock, and of course he did. So since that day, it has been called Lönne Sock. I'm gonna choose a feather for the first tackle, or the last tackle, depending on how you look on the fly. But I want a red hackle here in the end. I'm just gonna use a simple cock hackle in a blood red color. I really want it to be a blood red color. You can of course use saddle feathers and other stuff as well. But this is a low water hook, and it's also a low water fly. So I don't want the fly to be too bulky. It's gonna be a quite sparsely tied fly. Yeah, so now I'm just gonna see if I can find one, or if something like this. I'm gonna tie the hackle stem in, or the hackle in the tip, because I want it like to build up the hackle a little bit using the smaller fibers, and then they get longer as further you get down on the hackle, and I want that just to build it up a little bit. So tie it in on the tip, and as I said, I use a quite thick thread, so I'm gonna pull quite hard on it, turn it backwards, make sure it stays there, cut off the rest there, and then start hackling a little bit the first ones. Remember to like follow the fingers, or how do you say it, like pull on the fibers here, and when you turn them around, So you make sure you get a lot of them all the way around the hook. And don't be afraid of, like, if you feel like that, I missed some hackle on that side and stuff like that, or they're like very spread and everything. It doesn't matter, because we're gonna tie them in afterwards. See, there's a little gap in between here, but it doesn't matter that much. I'm gonna tie them in. I never count actually how many reps I do. I just like do whatever I feel for. It's a fishing fly, and then when I find that is enough, I just stop. I'm just gonna cut the rest off. Do the classic lick finger thing. Then we wanna like just tie backwards a little bit. And here I'm a little bit more careful on how I do it, so I'm like twisting it a little bit. As you see, it's not a lot of hackle that I have on it, but it is a low water fly, and you want the salmon to see the flight just when it's in front of it. Then. So yeah, most important thing with this hackle thing, and why I'm sitting here picking on it a little bit, is that I want it to be quite spread and not like falling down too much. Like I don't want them to squeeze together like this too much. I really want them to stand up like this, because it makes it makes some vibrations in the water and nice movement in the water. This fly has many variations to it as well. You can tie it on treble hooks and on tube flies as well. It's a very good fly for sea trout also. The next thing I'm gonna do is tie in some uniaxle in this rainbow black. I'm just gonna cut off a little bit. And then you don't want to do what I just did, but you can tie it in quite far up and just wrap it down. Just like that. I'm gonna try to find the middle of the hook and hope that my eye measures are good. And then I'm just gonna start wrapping, and I'm doing this quite hard. Sometimes you probably just want to turn it or twist it a little bit, the braid here, because it tends to like open up. And I'm doing this by hand, not with a bobbin, because I want to have like a good control on how much I put on, and also how hard I tie it in. And I'm tying it quite hard. Let's see if we reach the middle, something around there. So, just cut the rest off. But then I'm just gonna take some of this here, so it doesn't annoy us too much. Now it's time for the middle hackle, and that's gonna be a black. It's a rooster cape I have right here. It's gonna be a black hackle. And I'm gonna do the same with this one. Actually, tie it in on the tip. Something like this. I want the hackle with thin fibers on, so I can make turns so that they get spread quite a lot, and then it still looks quite sparsely. And I want that, as I said, because this is a version for a little bit low water fishing. I'm gonna tie it in the tip like this here. And again, I'm pulling quite hard. Taking the tip, turning it backwards just to lock it. And then lick the fingers a bit. And many probably prefer to use a hackle tool or hackle plier, but I like just having the the hackle stem in my hand because I feel I have a little bit better control. Now we just want all the fibers to come around here. So actually I'm not gonna, maybe another wrap. And then pull the thread around there. Sometimes if I'm not 100% satisfied with the way the hackles are laying, I'm just gonna start over. And I think that's a good thing. You should not be too critical, because the fish are not too critical either. But if you like spend time tying flies and you think you have a certain thing that you do while tying that you're not 100% satisfied with, I would just start over, or like take that material off and do it again, because you're gonna be much more happy in the end. And also, we all know it when we're sitting on the riverbank and choosing that right fly, or what we think is the right fly. We're always looking for the one that looks the best in the box. So try to make them so you're 100% satisfied. Yeah, and now we need to remember something else that's quite important. Some crystal flash in purple. Yeah, you can of course use other types of flash, but I like this this crystal flash here because it's quite discreet in a way, but still it's glittering, and also I think it matches the body braid quite good, as it is rainbow, and yeah, the purple thing here has a good color to it. I'm just tying it in on the top of the hook like this. I'm not like wrapping it around my thread. And the reason for that I do that is just because I feel again that I can really see how I place the flash strands, so they are laying exactly where I want them. I'll turn this one backwards. I want them to like be spread to each side like they do now. We're gonna see it easily when we cut it off. And again, like if you use what can you say, a powerful thread or strong thread, then you can pull quite hard on this as well. So you can always adjust these afterwards, but something like that. Then we're just gonna wrap it over there. So the next thing is back to the uni-axle braid here. So wrap it around, pull a bit hard on the first one there. This is actually a very good fly to like start tying salmon flies. If you like just starting tying for salmon, and sea trout as well, of course. This is a very easy go-to fly to start out with. Try to turn a little bit. And that, as I said earlier, maybe my eye measures are not as good as I think, but at least I think that we're quite close to being the same amount of braid in the body. Yeah, that the distance are as it should be. We're gonna need another hackle here. I think this won't work. I'm just checking that that the fibers are as I want them. I just need to find it. So again, just keep your fingers on the fibers here so you get them all the way. Now I missed something there. Satisfied with that. So that is it, pretty much. And then I don't use super glue. I use some varnish, a thin one first. And I'm really trying to keep steady, that I don't put a lot of varnish into my hackles. So I'm just gonna take one layer with a thin varnish, and then I'm gonna do it 1 or 2 times more with a little thicker one, but I want this to dry up a little bit first. And again, this is another thing that like takes a little time, but it's worth it, because your fly is gonna last a lot longer than if you just I could just put some super glue on it and then yeah, it's ready and everything. But by varnishing them 2 or 3 times or even more, you're gonna have a fly that lasts much longer. So now it's up to me if I'm satisfied, and I know this fly will work. Maybe these ones could be a little bit more like that, but it will be better on the next one. Because you cannot just have one, you need a lot of them. So this is a Lönne Socken on a classic low water double hook size 6. You can use it all season in Mörrum and many other rivers, good for the Danish rivers as well. Tied on a tube, treble hook, whatever you're allowed to. And you can tie them a lot thicker than these ones as well. But this is a typical Lönne Sock, the way I tie it at least. So, yep.